Everyone has their favorite fictional characters, and everyone also has one character they hate more than anything. Funnily enough, sometimes the characters we once used to hate turn into our favorites. Scratch that, into everyone's favorite. The antagonist gone ally trope is more than just common nowadays. But how come it still gets us every time? How come characters like Zuko, Amity, Hunter and Tom are so intriguing? In this video we are breaking down what our favorites have in common, why we love them so much, and why this trope works so exceptionally well. I'm going to use some examples I just named, because I think they are suited to describe the trope in this video. But there are many more than I could ever mention now, so please feel free to tell me all about the characters you associate with this topic in the comments. One characteristic, or the characters share that go from antagonist to friend, if not the most important one, is that once they have left their dark sides behind, it's impossible to miss how quirky, sometimes awkward and even clumsy they are. Or have become? Which is it? The correct answer is how quirky they are. They have in common that they were already quirky before switching sides. If a character is full-on evil at first, then abruptly becomes good and is only used as comic relief, that is only called bad writing, and is definitely not our topic in this video. Characters like Zuko or Amity and Hunter are portrayed as quirky from the very beginning, just rather subtly or scarcely. To put it differently, at first, these characters that at this point are still surrounded by a generally gloomy or intense atmosphere suiting their current role are either actively shown to be different from the real villains without them actually being good people being revealed yet, or they are occasionally used to make the audience laugh. For example, Hunter from the Owl House is initially a devout supporter of Emperor Bellows, but since his first appearance, noticeably less extreme following different values. Corresponding to the second alternative for all of Season 1, Zuko from The Last Airbender is indisputably an antagonist through and through. That is once in a while entangled in some ridiculous scenario because of his not at all evil uncle. Writing an antagonist this way has two essential effects on the audience. To be precise, the viewer is teased with regards to two different aspects of the character. The first being that the viewers low-key already have the feeling that the character's true nature is quirky. Not to mention that they enjoy their occasional entertaining moment, contrasting their, let's say, unpleasant impression, and want to see more. However, the people behind the screen are not yet provided with the abundance of quirkiness they are hoping for. As a rule, at least for one season, if not longer, the audience is lured and provoked, so that when the antagonist finally becomes their true self and the number of their lighthearted moments suddenly surges, this change is extremely satisfying for the audience, given their tension is finally released. From that point on, they begin to trip, to lose their stuff, and to step on other people's toes, etc. All kinds of funny or embarrassing things happen to them. Additionally, as they no longer hold up a facade, they gradually unmask the previously hidden sides of their personalities that are often slightly weird and inherently entertaining. The point is, those things are pretty normal. They happen to everyone. Consequently, following their change, the former antagonists become more relatable. Though they have already been relatable before, what leads us to the second teasing argument. The antagonist is defined as just one of the antagonists from the very beginning, while it is also made clear that there is a villain dedicated to the entire series. Since they are both on the side that opposes the show's heroes, the antagonist and the villain will inevitably be compared by us. This comparison leads us to the conclusion that because of the way they are portrayed in contrast to the villain, they are more human, and at least somewhat likable. Generally, relatability is a huge factor when it comes to which characters people like and which not. By letting the antagonist appear less bad than the villain, a certain minimum of relatability is given. Again, the example Zuko, who's of course shown to be an unpleasant person to be around initially, but definitely more human than the other Fire Nation generals, and Fire Lord Ozai, who only know a single method of reaching their goals: murder. And with that minimum of relatability, a minimum of likability is automatically provided. Another thing I'd call a requirement to make this kind of character work. The major part of why we do not like these characters in the beginning consists of the fact that they are the hero's opponents and their coinciding actions. Let me describe it this way. They are generally 100% likable, based on the rough outline of their personalities. But then they do or say something resulting from their positioning opposite from the good guys that harms this image. That can happen in two ways, either by constant light overstepping of boundaries regarding what's bad and what's not, or by an occasional hard crossing of boundaries. In terms of real examples, Tom is just mean and arrogant all the time. He's not really evil, but has this constant uncomfortable air around him. Zuko, on the other hand, actually does many nice things even while he's still officially an antagonist, but attempts murder every now and then, making us realize that he's still very much a bad guy. Hence, one of the prime reasons for this joke being as successful as it is that instead of writing an utterly unlikable character and trying to make the audience like them somehow, these characters are at the core written to be liked from the start, and over the course of their development, the intentionally built barriers that kept us from truly liking them before are gradually abolished. In connection to that process, it is indispensable that the characters are not truly evil at heart. They are not on the bad side because they honestly desire to be there. Instead, they happen to be there due to some unfortunate circumstances, due to their origins, or because of a specific goal. Usually, once their reason is gone, or once they have developed enough to realize their logic is flawed, turning good becomes the obvious choice for them. A transformation of this kind is just 1,000 times more believable and natural than having a full-on, wholehearted villain give up their basic principles of life, adapting the ways they have actively condemned before. Additionally, their initial situation and following development represent another chance for the audience to identify themselves with the characters. Almost everyone has found themselves in a position where they felt the need to make someone else proud at least once, to receive their acknowledgement, no matter the price, regardless of who that person was, your parents, your boss, or your partner. Whenever you are trying to live up to someone else's expectations, the probability of you doing something you would not have done if not for that person is outrageously high. Thus, though not necessarily to the same degree, the audience shares this experience with the character on screen and comprehends well how they feel. Just like me, like you, and everyone else, these characters never made it their goal to hurt anyone. All they ever had in mind was their personal peace. The frustration of not getting it, of not getting something every person has the right to get, leads them to become an antagonist, as doing so seemingly promises a change, or at least poses an easy method of relief. Not lastly, because the characters remind us of ourselves, we hope for them to get their own happy ending. Even though happy endings are not always the best or most logical choice from a story writing point of view, I firmly believe that humans tend to wish for them regardless. Some more out in the open, some rather subtly. Secretly or not, the audience hopes a happy ending comes to pass. Ergo, when the antagonist at last sheds his mean manners in a believable way, finally coming full circle, the human desire for completeness is satisfied, perfectly in line with the natural aversion of conflict. And this inherent aversion to conflict is furthermore relevant in another context. Evidently, completely avoiding conflicts is not feasible most of the time. But whenever you do make a mistake, what you wish for most is making up and being forgiven. Whenever a character on screen can redeem themselves by honestly doing their best in righting their wrongs and is accepted by the good guys, the message that reconciliation motivation is always attainable is conveyed. That is definitely reassuring. Similarly, pleasant emotions are invoked by accompanying a character on their journey of becoming a better version of themselves. A version that you and they like a lot better. Being satisfied with who you are is a state of mind most humans strive for, if they haven't reached it yet. Watching a character moving towards that goal is satisfying, motivating, and for some even induces a feeling of proudness, given you have hit a high enough level of immersion. This effect is strong, since the characters have turned their backs on whatever forced them to commit evil deeds, and is augmented linearly with the time/the length of the show until their development is consummated, what creates the air of having been a long, wearisome task. In addition, the conclusion to these characters' arcs often mounts to a heart-to-heart conversation between the has-been antagonist and the heroes. The antagonist then openly takes responsibility for their past, sincerely apologizes, and is honest about their former motivations and current feelings. In contrast to the heroes, we as the audience know they are finally being upfront and truly appreciate it, as we usually do when another real human is being honest with us. At this point, if some of the viewers have not yet come to like the character, they at least become more willing to give them a chance, being forced to admit that their newfound frankness is admirable. Last but not least, the characters do not simply become a normal amount of likable over the course of their change. In fact, they become lovable. They become one of the most likable characters in the entire series, and that is one of the main reasons why this show works so well. You can see particularly well how great they have become based on the fact that the redeemed characters get many of the most wholesome scenes of the show, some of them on their own and some of them shared with their former enemy and new best friend, the main character. That last bit is an unspoken law, by the way. If the antagonist and the MC do not become besties, there's something wrong with the show. You can throw the whole thing out, or they could just do it like the Owl House and make them date and gay. In conclusion, there are various reasons why this type of character always seems to be a fan favorite, no matter what show, what genre, and no matter who the audience is. If I had to break it down to a few words, I'd say it's a mix of the contrast between the characters' two versions and their relatability. Let me know in the comments what you think, and make sure to subscribe for more cartoon and anime content.